Revenge with Karen. The day I knew I was disposable started with a bagel and ended with an HR escort and my login credentials nuked from orbit. Picture this. I'm in the break room, cream cheese halfway to the edge, when a junior intern named Kyle, yes, a real Kyle, complete with acne and startup dreams, leans over and mutters, "Hey, do we normally transfer 80 gigs of encrypted data to Bulgaria at 3 a.m.? I froze. Not because I didn't know the answer. I did. The answer was no. Hell no. Data transfers like that were red flag territory. Protocol would have required a 10-person sign-off, a ritual sacrifice, and probably a full moon. But the system logs told a different story, quiet, almost polite exfiltration routed through a shadowy relay in Sofia. I brought it up to IT, the response. Probably just a scheduled sync, or Kyle messing with his VPN again. Yeah, right. For context, it was the compliance officer at Sable Tech, which marketed itself as an ethical AI startup, but operated more like a Vegas blackjack table run by raccoons in suits. My job was to keep us from breaking the law, or more accurately, from getting caught breaking it. We sold security solutions we barely understood and promised transparency, while holding meetings in Slack channels named #NotForLegal. Still, I did my job. I flagged anomalies, wrote reports no one read. I reminded C-level execs, usually between golf outings and tequila tastings, that GDPR wasn't just a suggestion. My reward? A cubicle next to the janitor closet and a monthly passive-aggressive email about my tone during all-hands meetings. But that night, that data spike, that wasn't just an oopsie. That was intentional. It didn't smell like a mistake. It smelled like bleach and fear and cover-up cologne. I stayed late that night, pulled the access logs, screen-capped the anomalies, cross-referenced employee login patterns with VPN pings. I was 3 coffees deep and one emotional breakdown away from going full Snowden when I realized this wasn't isolated. There were multiple instances going back weeks, always overnight, always to offshore servers. Different IPs, same digital signature. A pattern hidden in noise. That's when it hit me. This wasn't incompetence. It was a damn op. And just before I shut down for the night, I did something I wasn't proud of, but I was too scared not to. I emailed the logs to my personal inbox, just in case, because if I vanished tomorrow, I didn't trust these people not to reassign my desk before my chair got cold. By the way, 97% of y'all listen to these stories without subscribing or dropping a like. Come on, hit that button. Keeps this whole misfit team running and makes me feel like maybe, someone's rooting for the little guy once in a while. Anyway, the next morning, I brought the logs to the CTO, a man whose entire personality was built on vape clouds, and the phrase, "let's circle back." He didn't even look at them. Just glanced at me with that forced smile glaze, the kind you use when a toddler hands you a dead frog. "You're overreacting," he said. "We've got safeguards in place. Let IT handle it. Trust the process." Trust the process. I smiled, nodded, then went back to my desk and opened a fresh Google Doc titled, "Insurance in case I get mysteriously fired." I wasn't being paranoid. I was being prepared. There's a difference. It started as a ping, just a little blip on the dashboard while I was eating sad desk salad and eavesdropping on sales bro gossip. One of the anomaly detectors I'd configured myself flagged a data access attempt at 2:43 a.m. from an internal account that should have been inactive for months. The alert description, privilege escalation detected, unusual outbound traffic. I blinked, clicked, re-clicked. I know false positives. I eat false positives for breakfast. But this one had teeth. The log trail wasn't a toddler clicking around. This was someone who knew where the valuables were stored. Surgical strike. Whoever it was bypassed 2 layers of access control, cloned a client archive, then zipped it up like a Christmas ham and shipped it to a dead IP in Frankfurt. I ran cross-checks, pulled timestamps, checked who was in the building, who was logged in, what credentials were used. The deeper I dug, the more I felt like I was peeling back drywall in a nice house only to find black mold and the carcass of possum no one mentioned in the real estate brochure. So I did what I was supposed to do. I marched down 2 flights of stairs, server logs in one hand, energy drink in the other, and knocked on the CTO's glass coffin. Let's call him Derek, mostly because I'm still not legally allowed to call him what I want to. He looked up from his laptop like I was interrupting his live-streamed Fortnite match. "Derek," I said, sliding the printouts toward him, "we've got a situation. Internal breach. high-level credentials. Client archive pulled at 2:43 this morning. He skimmed the first line, then leaned back in his Herman Miller throne and gave me that corporate speak smile that's one eye twitch away from contempt. Thanks, he said, but we've got safeguards for this. It's probably just a dev script gone rogue. I'll loop in DevOps. I didn't move. It's not a dev script. The access was manual. This is a breach. Someone walked in and took something. Eric sighed and pulled out the oldest card in the middle management deck. Drop it. We've got it under control. Trust the process. Derek, I said, leaning in, the process is what just got breached. He didn't respond. Just went back to his laptop. I stood there for 5 seconds, 6, then turned and walked out, the paper log still sitting on his desk like a Rorschach test he refused to read. That's when I knew I was alone. Back at my desk, opened a private browser tab. Gmail, draft mode. No subject. Attached the logs. Sent them to an address only I knew, one I made years ago for just-in-case moments like this. Then I hit print. A full hard copy for my rainy day folder, hidden in the bottom drawer behind some old onboarding binders nobody had touched since pre-pandemic. I didn't want to believe what was starting to form in the back of my brain, but it was there, like a pit in your gut when the plane dips midair. This wasn't just an oversight. This was something planned, something permitted, and if no one upstairs was going to investigate it, then I damn well would. The next compliance meeting was held in Conference Room B, our innovation hub, which basically meant a whiteboard with dry markers and stale LaCroix. The usual suspects were there. Janice from legal, always typing but never listening. Reggie from finance, whose soul had been replaced by pivot tables. And of course Derek, pretending to look interested while texting someone more important. When it was my turn on the agenda, I laid it out, clearly, calmly, with the kind of practiced composure that only comes after screaming into your steering wheel in the parking lot. There's been unauthorized data access, repeated instances. I've sent the logs, this is a breach. If we don't report it, we're legally exposed. Silence. Janice blinked. Reggie scratched his head and mumbled something about waiting for audit. Derek just looked bored and sipped his mango LaCroix like I was interrupting his spa day. Then Derek said, let's take this offline, which in corporate terms is the kiss of death. Meeting ended. No notes taken. No follow-up scheduled. Everyone scattered like cockroaches in LED lighting. 10 minutes later, I got a calendar invite from HR. Subject line, check-in. No context, just a time and a room number. I showed up thinking maybe someone had my back. Spoiler, they did not. It was Marla from HR, the one who wore smiley face pins and used mindful as a threat. She greeted me like I was her ex-husband's lawyer. Thanks for coming, she chirped. We've had some feedback about your recent conduct. I blinked. Feedback? Yes, she said, flipping through a folder that definitely did not have my name on it 5 minutes ago. Concerns around collaboration. Communication tone, a general mismatch with company culture. I waited, she continued. There's a perception you've become difficult, combative, distrustful of leadership. I almost laughed. You mean I'm doing my job? She didn't laugh. This is a supportive environment and we value emotional intelligence. Perhaps consider how your energy impacts the team. Energy impacts the team. I looked her in the eye and realized this wasn't a warning. This was the preamble. They were softening the ground for hit job. Am I being put on a PIP? I asked. Oh no, she smiled. This is just a conversation, which is HR code for yes, but not in writing. After that, I started documenting. Everything, every meeting, every offhand comment, every eye roll from Derek, every coincidental exclusion from invite lists. I used a private email, offsite backups, timestamps, screenshots. If they were going to play games, I was going to build a damn case file. And still, I held out some small, foolish hope that someone in leadership would wake up and realize how bad this could get. That we were playing with fire. That maybe they'd do the right thing. But the truth was already uncoiling in my chest like a cold steel spring. They didn't want to fix it. They wanted to bury it. And I was the dirt in their way. It happened on a Wednesday. Not that it matters. Betrayal doesn't care about the calendar. But I remember it because I still had half a yogurt in the break room fridge. Strawberry, full fat. Now forever lost to corporate purgatory. I came in like any other day, swiped my badge, grabbed my lukewarm coffee, and opened my laptop to find nothing. My desktop wallpaper gone, my files scrubbed. Even my calendar had vanished like I'd never existed in the first place. Then came the knock. 2 security guys I'd never seen before, gray polos, clipped earpieces like we were guarding the president instead of. What? a startup that sold half-baked AI compliance tools to banks that barely knew how to spell ethics. "Ma'am," one of them said, "we're going to need you to come with us." I laughed. I actually laughed. "You serious?" They weren't smiling. Downstairs, Marla from HR was waiting, her fake concerned face dialed to 11. "Decided to move in a different direction," she said, sliding a manila envelope toward me like it was a peace offering and not a bullet. Inside, a termination letter citing performance misalignment, a severance package worth maybe 2 months of rent, and a 16-page NDA thicker than my lease. I didn't even touch it. "You're firing me for reporting a federal offense," I said. She blinked. "That's not how we'd characterize it." I stared her down. "What would you call unauthorized data exfiltration and internal suppression of breach evidence?" Marla glanced toward the security guards like I was yelling bomb threats and not asking her to not be a criminal. "You're making this difficult," she said. "No," I said. "You made this criminal." Then I stood up, grabbed my coat, and left the envelope on the table like it was infected. They didn't even let me pack up. I was escorted out through the lobby like a shoplifter who'd been caught stealing Post-it notes and dignity. My coworkers didn't meet my eyes. Derek wasn't there. Of course not. Cowards always send other people to pull the trigger. Outside, it hit me. No job, no severance, no safety net. Just me, a gut full of adrenaline, and one USB drive with enough proof to make an audit committee wet itself. I sat in my car for a long time. Not crying, not raging, just staring at the dashboard as the heat fogged the windshield and my hands shook from something colder than fear, clarity. They thought I'd fold, take the hush money, sign the NDA and disappear like every other inconvenient woman before me. But they picked the wrong paper pusher. I drove home, fired up my laptop, and did 3 things. Emailed my documentation to 2 secure cloud backups. Called a whistleblower attorney I'd bookmarked 3 weeks ago. Filed an anonymous tip with the SEC. The system may be rigged, but even rigged systems leak. And I was about to turn that leak into a goddamn flood. The lawyer's office smelled like mahogany and litigation. Old school place, tucked behind a strip mall pharmacy, the kind of setup that screamed, "We don't do billboards, we win in silence." His name was Kenneth Braun, ex-DOJ, 0 social skills, a Rolodex that could probably take down half of Silicon Valley if you oiled it properly. I laid everything out. The breach, the suppression, the termination, the NDA, the whole slimy trail of corporate breadcrumbs leading straight into a legal dumpster fire. When I finished, he looked at me over his glasses like I was a stray dog that had wandered in with a flash drive full of gold. "This is retaliation," he said. "And if those logs are what you say they are, it's also fraud." I exhaled for what felt like the first time in weeks. Retaliation we can prove. Fraud we can weaponize. He explained the next steps. We'd file a whistleblower complaint under federal protection statutes. If the SEC took it seriously, and it looked like they damn well should, this could become very public and lucrative. But it would also get ugly. "They'll smear you," he said. "Question your sanity. Paint you as disgruntled. Maybe even imply you were the breach." I nodded. "Let them try." He smiled, thin and sharp. "Good, let's make some noise." The paperwork was hell, sworn statements, chain of custody declarations, timestamps, authentication logs. I had to verify everything, then verify the verification. But I didn't care. This wasn't just about my job anymore. This was about all the people who'd ever been told to sit down, shut up, and smile through the sabotage. 2 weeks in, Kenneth called me with a tone I hadn't heard before, half amused, half lit match. "Your board's not as airtight as they think," he said. "A journalist just got hold of an internal email. Turns out, someone inside the company, bless their cowardly little soul, leaked a message from a board member that included my name. It wasn't subtle either. It read, 'We need to neutralize the compliance risk before the acquisition. If she pushes back, we escalate HR action.' No paper trail? No paper trail. That phrase right there cracked the dam. The story ran in a local tech blog the next day, buried but not invisible, and in a world addicted to doom scrolling, it didn't take long to surface. Suddenly, I wasn't just a fired compliance officer with a bad attitude, I was the whistleblower. Reddit threads popped up dissecting the breach. A freelance cybersecurity writer did a Twitter deep dive, connecting dots I hadn't even seen yet. My inbox went feral. Then it happened. During a Senate subcommittee hearing on digital infrastructure, an aide slipped a folder to Senator Clark, the same guy who'd grilled Facebook back in the day. He flipped it open, frowned, and read into the record. I'd like to submit this whistleblower complaint, currently under review by the SEC, involving Sable Tech and the concealment of a major data breach. It includes claims of internal retaliation. My name wasn't said aloud, but it didn't have to be. I watched the clip 20 times that night, not out of ego, out of disbelief. For the first time since this whole mess started, I didn't feel invisible. I felt dangerous, and I was just getting started. The smear campaign started like a bad rumor in a small town, whispers in inboxes, side-eyes in comment sections, LinkedIn post from someone who coincidentally used phrases lifted straight from my HR file. At first, I didn't notice. I was too busy helping Kenneth organize discovery files, highlighting audit trails, and cross-referencing deletion logs with Slack metadata. But then I got a weird email from an old college friend. "Hey, are you okay? Just saw that Reddit thread." I clicked the link. Freshly made account had posted a lengthy rant accusing me of incompetence, erratic behavior, and my personal favorite, paranoid delusions about internal sabotage. It was dressed up as concerned speculation, classic disinfo tactic. 2 replies deep, someone claimed to be a former colleague and alleged I struggled with basic tasks and lashed out at leadership. "Nice try, Derek." Then came the recruiter calls, one after another. Like clockwork. "Background is impressive. We'd love to talk more," followed within 48 hours by radio silence. Or worse, a polite, "Actually, we've decided to move in another direction." At first, I blamed the market. Then I saw the pattern. They were poisoning the well. Sable Tech didn't just want to fight me in court. They wanted to make sure I couldn't work again. That if I didn't take the NDA, I'd be blacklisted, forever known as the whistleblower who overreacted. The media had latched on now. That board email, it got picked up by a national cybersecurity outlet. The article ran under the headline, "Startup Culture or Cover-Up Culture." It exploded. Kenneth had to hire a second assistant just to deal with interview requests. A podcast asked me to speak. I declined. But I read the comments section obsessively, and something strange started happening. Other voices joined in. Former employees. Anonymous DMs. Guy who used to do contract QA work sent me a Dropbox link full of old compliance audits he said got buried in 2022. Another woman sent a screenshot of a Slack convo where an exec joked, "Maybe we should promote the breach girl to janitorial, then she can clean up her attitude." They were arrogant enough to mock me in writing. Kenneth got quiet when he saw it. Not shocked, just grim. "This is gold," he said. "Keep digging." I leaned in. I went from reactive to proactive. I started reaching out to former colleagues I trusted, people who'd been ghosted, pushed out, sidelined for doing too good a job. Most were scared, some weren't. A few agreed to submit affidavits. One even offered to testify. I stopped hiding, stopped apologizing. I changed my LinkedIn banner to a quote from the federal whistleblower statute and pinned a tweet that said, "Silencing women isn't compliance. It's cowardice." It got traction, thousands of likes. Trolls tried to dogpile, but I didn't flinch, because they weren't attacking me to break me. They were attacking me because they couldn't, not anymore. And behind the scenes, the subpoenas had started flying. Kenneth smiled like a man who just lit the fuse on a very long, very expensive firework. "Brace yourself," he said. "Why?" "Because Discovery's about to turn their Slack history into Exhibit A." Discovery cracked the mask wide open. It was a Friday afternoon when Kenneth called, voice tight with something between rage and awe. "We got it," he said, buried in an unindexed folder inside their cloud archive, the internal audit report. The file was dated 5 weeks before they fired me. 43 pages, titled, "Preliminary Findings, Unusual Data Activity/Risk Mitigation Strategy." Let me translate that corporate speak. They knew about the breach. Not just suspected, not just theorized, they had full documentation. IP logs, access trails, user credentials flagged for abnormal behavior. One redacted section referred to client exposure levels deemed material. Material, as in reportable, as in legally required. And the worst part? There was a second memo, attached to the audit like a parasite. This one was from the CFO to the board. It had 2 days after the breach analysis. It read, "Disclosure at this time could negatively impact our Series D round and acquisition interest. Recommend delaying formal report until Q3 close. Internal containment preferred over regulatory escalation." Internal containment. That's how they saw it. Not a crime. Not a threat to client data or people's lives. just a marketing inconvenience. Kenneth printed the memo out and slapped it on his office wall like a hunting trophy. This, he said, tapping it with a pen, is how you take down a company. Within 72 hours, federal investigators filed a subpoena for the CEO and 2 board members. Not a polite phone call, not a calendar invite, a federal subpoena. They showed up in court with smiles, left with legal counsel clinging to briefcases like life rafts. And the story exploded. CNN ran a segment. Whistleblower exposes breach cover-up at AI firm ahead of acquisition. They showed my photo, one I didn't even know they had. And for a second, I wanted to crawl out of my skin. But then I saw the comments. I read the hashtags. #believe compliance, #not just a document, she warned them people started reaching out. A nurse whose hospital used Sable Tech's platform. Teacher whose school had invested district funds into the company's education product. A cybersecurity expert who said the breach, if left unreported, could have spiraled into a nationwide data exposure event. This wasn't just about me getting canned. This was about kids, families, medical records, financial data, human lives tangled in spreadsheets and valuation decks. They tried to paint me as unstable, difficult, emotional. Turns out, it was just right, and the world was finally listening. The courtroom smelled like old carpet and slow justice. Every pew was filled, reporters scribbled, former coworkers avoided my gaze. Someone from HR sat 2 rows back, clutching her pearls like I'd walked in carrying gasoline and a grudge. Cameras weren't allowed during testimony, but the sketch artist captured enough, my posture, straight but steel-edged. The CEO, sweating under his too small collar. Their lead counsel, all charm and smirk and snake oil syllables. They went first, of course. Opening statement, I was emotionally compromised, disruptive, unable to collaborate with leadership. They leaned into gendered language, subtle but deliberate, said I had a pattern of aggressive behavior and created an atmosphere of distrust. Aggressive behavior, I asked questions. I flagged anomalies. I refused to sign a lie. But to them, woman who doesn't bend is a problem to be scrubbed. I kept my face still while they played their little game. But under the surface, my blood boiled so hot I thought the microphone might pick up the sound of it. Then Kenneth stood and lit the place on fire. He walked the jury through the timeline, the breach logs, the internal audit they buried, the Slack threads where executives mocked the breach girl while planning to gaslight her out of a career, handed the judge a printout showing the exact moment their system logs were scrubbed, 20 minutes after I sent my email to Derek. We're not alleging incompetence, Your Honor, Kenneth said, calm as a sniper. We're alleging premeditated retaliation. We're alleging fraud, and we are proving every second of it. He played the security footage of me being escorted out. Silent, head held high. The HR rep looked away. Then he dropped the bomb. Deposition clip of a junior IT contractor, nervous, stammering, but honest, admitting that he was told to wipe all internal chatter related to the breach the morning after I went to the CTO. That he was ordered to purge the Slack history for channels tied to incident response. The judge leaned forward, frowning. Ordered by whom? Director of Engineering, Kenneth said, under directive from the board. Silence. You could have heard a heartbeat hit the floor. My heart was thundering. My hands were icy, but I never flinched because this was it. The moment they stopped talking about me and started listening to me. The company's lawyers tried to object, stall, reframe the narrative. They called it a miscommunication, an unfortunate internal failure, an overzealous compliance officer misunderstanding complex technical systems. But the judge had seen enough. He looked at me, not with pity, not even sympathy, with respect. He turned to their table and asked a question I'll never forget. Was there any intent to report the breach before this whistleblower acted? Their silence was the loudest thing I'd heard all year. The verdict came down like thunder. Gavel. Silence. Then the judge's voice, clear and unflinching. Full reinstatement. $5 million in compensatory damages. Court-mandated public apology to be issued within 72 hours. Broadcast format approved. The room didn't erupt. Deflated, like the truth had sucked all the air from their lungs. I didn't cry. I didn't cheer. I just sat there, spine straight, palms resting on my thighs, feeling a tectonic shift somewhere deep inside my ribs. The CEO resigned the next morning. A PR release dressed in regret and non-apologies. New leadership direction, rebuilding trust, blah blah corporate atonement. The board didn't fare much better, ordered into federal compliance oversight, quarterly audits, and mandatory ethics training from a watchdog group they used to sponsor with tax-deductible smugness. But the moment that stayed with me, the walk back in. 2 weeks later, I returned. Sunglasses on, a blazer that cost more than my old monthly rent. No badge, just a court order and a swarm of cameras camped outside reception. The same HR rep who once walked me out now met me at the door with trembling hands and a rehearsed smile. "Welcome back," she whispered. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. The office was quiet. Every keyboard pause felt like an apology. Every coffee sip a prayer that I wouldn't stop at their desk. I moved through like a ghost with unfinished business, except this time everyone saw me coming. I walked past my old cubicle, still empty, still hollow, a little shrine to silence. I stopped, looked around. And then, just like that, I kept walking. Out the door, down the steps, to the street. My heels clicked like punctuation marks on the story they'd tried to erase. I didn't want my old job. I wanted justice, and I got it. The apology aired that night, prime time. A pre-recorded statement from the board, faces tight, voices brittle. "We sincerely regret the actions taken against a valued employee." They didn't say my name, but they didn't have to. The chyron beneath them did. And as I watched it, I got a ping. News alert. Senate committee to launch new hearings on corporate retaliation, sparked by whistleblower case at Sable Tech. I stared at it, then smiled. They tried to bury me, but I wasn't the dirt. I was the damn quake. What hits hardest here isn't just the payout, it's the principle. So many people get crushed trying to do the right thing in a system built to silence them. This story is proof. When you hold the receipts and don't back down, even the most powerful suits can fall. Big thanks, you legends of the old office days. Subscribe to keep the switch-flicking chaos alive. Your ex-boss is shaking in their loafers.